Buenas, buenas. ¿Qué tal? Bueno, muchas gracias.
Hello. Thank you, Genexus, for this invitation. I'm here on behalf of Montes del Plata from the forestry industry. I'm responsible for the IT system at Montes del Plata. The title is Digital Transformation in the Forestry Industry. Well, the first thing I have to say is I'm not going to give you a definition about the digital transformation. It depends on the degree of maturity and the need you have to reconvert. But what we're going to show you in this talk is what we are doing in the company. A lot is being said about the forestry industry because it's a pioneering industry, because it's a good exporter. But my doubt at present is how much you know about the forestry chain and about these two large plants we've got. So let me show you a brief video and so that you can see the chain from one end to the other.
No lo agarró. ¿Usamos la presentación, capaz? Bien, ahora sí.
All right. Here we go. In Uruguay, there is a new productive chain involving people. Every day, from different parts of our country, we build the production that takes the knowledge and the work of Uruguay to the world. And every day in the world, there are thousands of elements of our daily lives involve pulp of a good wood. Over 100 people from the departments of Rio Negro and Soriano work in the greenhouse of Montes del Plata. This is where the eucalyptus trees are growing, and they will become pulp in the future. There are also lab experts looking for the adaptation of the seeds to the conditions of the field. There's an improvement program that takes years. After the plantlets grow, they go to the open air and then taken to the field. There is exhaustive planning before planting the trees, where 700 people work annually. While trees grow, also the cattle of hundreds of producers grow around the forest. These plants in 13 provinces are in Montes del Plata own fields and associate partners. Through alliances, over 300 producers have included forestry in their fields. For Margarita, trees are and have been an opportunity to grow her own land. Fernando planted shadow and protection for his cattle. For Montes del Plata, to become associated is to use the land more effectively, to grow more harmonically in an integrated manner. It keeps a large proportion of protected areas where there are wetlands, prairies, and historical and cultural sites, public places that are managed for their conservation. Every 10 years, in every plot, the time comes to harvest the wood and transport it to the industrial plant. You don't need force, but skill and accuracy. To generate the wood that the plant needs to produce at full capacity is a challenge per se, and to get it to the plant efficiently is another challenge. There are 4 barges along Rio Uruguay transporting half of the wood, avoiding 100,000 trips by lorry from Copihua to Rio Negro, and from there to the port terminal of Montes del Plata in Colonia are transported. A modern fleet of lorries takes the rest of the wood to the paper mill. This is transported through a logistics terminal where a team monitors the status of the lorry, the speed of the load to make transportation safer. The industrial complex of Montes del Plata next to Conchillas is one of the largest investments in the history of Uruguay. Its technology is a state-of-the-art. It has a paper mill, an energy plant, and a port terminal. There are over 1,000 Uruguayans from Colonia mostly work here. Here they can grow and develop close to their homes. This is where the rolls are cut in small parts called chips. These chips go into the digester. They are mixed with chemicals at high pressure and temperature to separate cell from the other components. And there you have cell that goes from dark brown to white because it's bleached. This is a closed circuit of power, inputs, and water. Clean and renewable energy is produced for the complex and for over 200,000 households. There are also chemicals that are recovered in the process. Water is treated, recycled, and recirculated to minimize its consumption. This is how the plant is feasible from the economic and environmental standpoint. There is a brain in the control room where there is centralized management and optimum control of all activities. Once it's bleached, it's dried in sheets and stored, ready to be exported. Once a week, a transocean ship comes to take the knowledge from our field to the world. Every single day in Uruguay, over 6,000 people form part of a very long chain of work, dedication, talent, innovation, commitment, engagement, and trust. A chain of excellence, joining 13 provinces of Uruguay, offering opportunities and taking the best of Uruguay to the further away places and to the most daily life places as well. Very well. I don't know what you think about this, but we wanted to show you in this video the large challenges that we have ahead. To have all this monster working 24/7, not only at the IT department, but at all users' areas. It's a logistics chain that is enormous and quite complex, particularly as regards challenges. Let's look at the industry. There is an intrinsic complexity in our sector. When we work in the lab, everything is fine. But when you go out to the fields, there are additional challenges. We have to have all this large machinery going on, but at the same time, we have to generate and innovate and digitalize processes and lots of other things. The forestry industry has an additional complexity. There are large fields all over the country. This means that whenever we want a solution, we have to work with online, and there are also other problems linked to forestry industry, which is inhospitable working environments. When we look for a solution, we test it in a lab that is closed. But when we take it out to the fields, independent of the technology, we have several problems that the solution that has given us 99% success will go down to 30% because of the rainfall, because of many other things. So those are challenges that could be linked to our industry. Now, there are other challenges where we find it everywhere, in retail, in mass consumption, and so on. And those are the challenges posed by all large organizations, that is to reduce costs, to be more effective, to generate efficiency. And inter alia, as an organization, we have to be adapted to new consumption habits. They are changing faster. Users have more experience in terms of access to information and access to systems, and that means that we have to be the pioneers in providing solutions and the advance to those solutions, so that people don't go out looking for solutions or projects outside our organization or outside our technology. That is why for many years, 2 or 3 years now, we have been looking into digital transformation processes or digital companies. Montes del Plata, independent of the industry, well, you know, this is 10 years, and well, we do have the same needs. This challenge of digital transformation is something that we are undertaking. What we are trying to do is that, as it happens with any transformation process, we have to deal with 3 vertical elements. We have to take into account people, and technology. And there is a 4th axis, which is change management. At people level, we understand that the market is saturated, new talents, new resources for the new trends. At technology level, there is lots of things. We have to be focused. We have to leave systems, the core systems working, and we have to see where we can find differentials, integrate it, and so on. So clearly, we have more options there and lots of alliances that we can take advantage of. We also have to manage change through processes. We have to be more agile. All these digital processes will bring about modifications of traditional processes. And above all, this concept of the change management that is going to be dealing with the 3 axes. And if there are people involved, you must know how to manage them. So digital transformation is not just a fashion. It is something that we have to take seriously. In our case, will be promoted by the IT department. In other companies, this may be done through a CEO's decision, but clearly it must be something supported by top management, and there must be someone leading it. It's important to point out that in our case, when we talk about digital transformation, we are a company or an industry that doesn't want to change our business model. It's not going to change in the next 5 years. But what we are doing is amplifying digitally our core products or our core capacities. There are companies that must make radical transformations. That's not our case. However, those companies apply this concept of digital transformation as well. Last year we said, well, we've got to take this and see how we channel it. And the first thing we did was, well, we have two options. One is to hire a consulting firm. They are going to bring some tools and a magic solution, but obviously we don't have enough resources, so we did it internally. We were supported by various providers. That's our decision, to do it in company. This is a very specialized industry. It's no use hiring a consulting firm with magical solutions. So we made a decision to have an interdisciplinary team participating in the business areas and also having our local strategic providers on board to help us make this a step forward. The best solution to deal with this challenge and the digital transformation as such is to set up a working team. And that working team was an interdisciplinary team. And the first thing that we define is where we want it to be in 3 or 5 years. Now we are here, we've got a group of solutions and trends. Some of them have a larger impact on the forestry industry than on other industries. And so we said, where is it that we want to be standing? We also define short-term goals. We define skills and a group of collaborators that we want to have with us on board. So we set up a process. We started setting up how to localize it, the demand, the innovation process, and so on and so forth. Now, as where we wanted to be in 5 years' time, we defined the technological trends, what was going to be the technological umbrella that was going to give us leverage to take those steps. There are many trends. As you'll see, most of them are well known. This is the ones we decided to use and see what impact they could have on our industry. But if we go over it, then cloud edge computing, intelligent apps, intelligent things, everything that has to do with autonomous vehicles and drones, digital twin, RPA for automating processes, and on the other hand, artificial intelligence, which is the large basis of all these trends. Now, if we go over them together with conversational platforms, and that's the next largest challenge, we can see that the trends would apply in the same way to other companies, banking, retail, mass consumption. Perhaps they are more focused on big data or customer focus, but in fact 5 or 6 of these trends will always be present independent of the industry you're working in. So these were the technologies chosen. On that basis, we said, all right, let's see how we can move forward. We know our technological framework, we know where we want to be in 5 years' time, and then on the other hand, now we have to execute. We either hire a large consulting, or as it happens, we don't have enough money and we haven't got the money. We have to do it internally. We haven't got the resources. So we had a multi-provider, multi-platform strategy. We are open. We work with IBM, with Oracle, and last year we started working with Genexus platform, and we said, let's be supported by our providers, strategic providers, networks. We had synergy in that co-creation of value or innovation process. Let us make it help us execute. And we found many opportunities and many win-win benefits. We understand that we have progressed a lot in 1 year because of the synergy with the ecosystem of providers. Last year, in particular, one of these providers came up to us. We had been discussing in a traditional business way, was Genexus. When we started with them, it wasn't simply because of those business talks, but because of our selection process. We had a large number of needs, data gathering, digitalization, that did not match SAP or an industrial system. So what we did was to set up a large ERP to mitigate those problems, to assess not a supplier or provider, but a platform to scale in the future. And that's where we went on the ERP. There were several companies presenting various technological platforms, Microsoft, SAP, and many others. And one of the solutions, one of the proposals was Genexus. It called our attention because of delivery times and the economic proposal, the numbers. Okay, this caused my attention. We made a concept test, and they really comply with the time frame. And that's why, because of productivity issues, it was justified to work with them. These were some of the objectives. This was a standard solution with a web and a mobile part, and we wanted to assess the structure of the platform, if we could be connected and linked to the other platforms. So we started working with Genexus from then onwards, particularly through a partner called Develop. And we thought about the roadmap of our products. We're always talking about web systems with a mobile component, but what really caught our attention is how agile capacity for experimenting and testing with Genexus. In this roadmap, you can see when we started, from September last year up to present, we launched 10 systems to production. Many of them had a web version, a mobile version, the capacity to be integrated with industrial systems. And now we are implementing one with SAP systems. In the case of PP, critical providers for the purchase area. We have practically assessed all the traditional branches of development, and we've had very good results. Now, clearly, the technological side is very important, but we've introduced other things like agility, always to be in BP, to have the productive developments after each iteration. So far, results have been very good. We have become far more agile. We have that capacity to have prototypes. Sometimes we can build a prototype in 2 weeks, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't. Now, it's much better to waste 2 weeks and test it than to spend 3 months and then realize it doesn't work later on. So I think that we have made a lot of progress along those lines, and we can see Genexus as an integrating platform. I don't want to bore you with examples, but there is one here. This is the look and feel of a system assessing providers, and you can see we have 100 and something internal users. It has its impact there. We did it this year. We have another example, like the system to work in the fields for plants. We take all the information from the ERP, from the forestry ERP. There is a planning that goes up to a quality assurance team, and they will have all the quantitative and qualitative variables. There is an entire development work allowing you to work offline with future synchronization, and then it goes back to the forestry ERP. We've also had other systems, for instance, O+D, trying to determine the index, the mortality rate integrated to barcodes and a printing to be able to identify each one of the plantlets. So for a year, we have tried our main axis. We've also tried it out with our critical systems, with printer as well, and the results have been very good. So we wanted to convey to you this message, to tell you what we are doing, and particularly what we are doing with GenX's. So that is all. Thank you.